Jasper, you're muted.
Welcome everybody to the NCSG CSIA joint webinar this week. This session is called Restart Ready, how sweeps are pivoting their businesses to come back even stronger. Once again, just a reminder, as Chuck will remind you at the end, to fill out the surveys and ask questions. Future webinars are going to be what you ask for, so please let us know what you'd like. This week, once again, we've got John Meredith hosting, and John, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Jasper. I appreciate you and your leadership, and Chuck Roydhouse, president of CSIA, and also Megan McMahon and the staff. They've just done a wonderful job, stepped up during this last couple of months. We really appreciate you. So today, just a housekeeping thing. If you scroll over your Zoom window at the bottom, you'll see two boxes. One is for Q&A and one is for chat. So today we'll be primarily looking at the Q&A box. So if any questions that come up during today's presentation, if you would just put them in the Q&A box, it's a lot easier to follow that. We won't be paying a lot of attention to the chat. You're certainly welcome to make comments there, but if you want your questions answered, if you would use the Q&A box, that would be helpful. So here we are in week 9 or 10 of this pandemic, if you will, and the economy seems to be creeping back slowly. I'm hearing that the phones are starting to ring again, certainly not at last year's pace, but things are beginning to move. So today we have a great panel of some of the thought leaders in our industry. You'll have a chance to learn from them and see how they've pivoted their business in the last couple months. So as you listen to today's presentation, I would encourage you to take lots of notes and pick 1 or 2 or 3 things that you can do to pivot your own business. One of the things I've noticed about successful people, successful businesses and their owners is that they take action. So they are able to create solutions, maybe borrow ideas from others, but they execute. So you're going to hear a lot of great thoughts today and ideas. So make a to-do list of the best ideas that you hear from today's presentation, and just start working on the ones that you think will be the most impactful for your business. The most successful people I know are not the smartest people. They're not the people with the best people skills, but they have a bias toward action. It's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. So with that, I want to ask Avery, our first panelist. Avery, if you would share your screen. Avery is the owner of Wells & Sons Chimney Service. He bought this business about 7 years ago. He's in the Philadelphia area. Now, Avery might be a little underqualified to be a chimney sweep. He only has a PhD in pharmacology and an MBA. So I don't know, you guys be the judge, but I think he might be a little underqualified to be in this business, but hey, whatever. So Avery, thank you for being willing to share your thoughts and ideas. So I just want to ask, how have you pivoted your business during the pandemic? What are some of the tactical things that you're doing now to keep your business strong, and what changes, if any, do you plan on making in the future, both short and long term, as a result of this recent economic headwinds we've been facing?
Sure, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with everyone today. My goal today is to really highlight some of Business Building 101, to share with you some of my success stories that I've introduced into my business from the start of this pandemic, and as well as sprinkle in some of the learnings from our previous week's presenters and how that's really helped my business. So whenever I look to make changes in my business, I really look to make educated, strategic, and stepwise improvements leading to a long-term goal. And what I mean by that is I really set a goal, whether it's a small goal or a big goal, and I break it down into manageable tactics that I can achieve on a daily or bi-daily basis. Because really what motivates me in this process is what I call Kitty Hawk moments. And I'm a big fan of the Wright brothers. And this Kitty Hawk moment really refers to the Wright brothers, who in 1903 tried to fly against all odds. To the people that weren't vested in their strategy, who weren't on their team, those 12 seconds of flight were a failure. But to those that were really vested in their vision, Those 12 seconds of flight were everything. It's where the impossible became possible. And those successes on that day really motivated them and drove them to continue to make more and more improvements and to continue that process so that ultimately they were able to have sustained flight. And that's really what drives me, is those little successes that lead to a long-term goal. Now, what's important is that you really need something strategic. So the Wright brothers didn't try to figure out how to serve meals on a transatlantic flight, right? So they really focused on three things: power, lift, and control. And by focusing on those limited number of things, they were able to accomplish those things, and which led to that sustained flight. So my recommendation is really sell the vision to your team, the individuals that you need to help accomplish these goals, get the buy-in, and then build it together. So let me give you a real life example. So John mentioned that I bought my business 7 years ago. The first thing I did is really look at the P&L, the profit and loss statement. And anybody who's a business owner knows that, and they should know that inside and out. You know, at a very, very simplistic view, you have your top line money coming in, then you have a whole number of money going out, and then you have your bottom line, which is really what you can pay yourself or invest back in your business. When I looked at the P&L, I really saw three things that the largest three buckets of money going out were really payroll, insurance, and cost of materials. Payroll, I didn't want to touch. If anything, I wanted to give my guys more money, help them have a better life. Insurance, you can always negotiate, and I do that every year, try to keep it where it is or less. But where I had the ability to meaningful impact my P&L was the cost of materials. So what I decided to do is I wanted to manufacture anything stainless steel that I needed for the industry: liners, lining kits, chase covers, tees, caps, multi-flues, everything. So I said to my team, we're going to build a manufacturing capability here, and I broke that down into tactics. What machines did I need to buy? What money did I need to buy those machines? How are we going to set up the warehouse? Who's going to manufacture it? And I went through on a week-to-week basis and set goals, and ultimately got my UL listing on that material. And now I have my own lining kits, my own chase covers, my own caps. And that significantly helps not only my bottom line, my profit, but it also helps me from an efficiency perspective, so that if I'm doing masonry today and it's raining out, I can move up a liner, run it real quick, and my guys are continue to be busy every day. So that helps not only them maintain 40 hours a week, but also helps me with my bottom line. That's just one example. So sell the vision, break it down into tactics so you can accomplish that, and then go get it done. All right, so before I go into the specifics about what I've done since the start of this pandemic, I want to highlight some market growth drivers and obstacles. So the drivers, quite honestly, simplistically, people are at home, they still need the work done, they're gardening, seeing mortar in their flower beds, they're noticing that work needs to be done. The obstacles, I broke it down into two: fear of infection and the economic uncertainty. My thesis was that if we can overcome these two obstacles, then business can thrive. And I've developed all my marketing, my sales, everything around tackling these two obstacles. There's another group of individuals out there that aren't afraid of the pandemic and aren't impacted financially. You also need to market to them. And there's a lot of groups out there that can help you identify these people. And we can talk about that. Send me an email, I'll help you find those people as well. But for those who are afraid, we really need to modify our business strategy to help put them at ease. All right, so these are some of the things that we're doing. On the marketing side, right away, we wanted to let people know we were open for business. So the front page of our website, we're open for business. We talk about the precautions we're taking. Last week, we learned about contactless sales and chat options. I've only recently implemented them and already starting to get success on those. They were great ideas by other panels. I highly recommend them. Marketing spend. I would recommend not decreasing your marketing spend. It's important to keep your name out there. You may shift your dollars to be more around how you're protecting your customers, how you're protecting your employees, It's really important to continue to keep that message out there to let them know you're open and you're being safe. Evolving customer service program. And I mentioned evolving because it's changing every day. We hear recommendations from our clients. We hear recommendations from my networking group, from all the folks from these sessions. So we're always out there making sure that my sales teams, my estimators, my sweep crews have a consistent message about how we're protecting the customer and ourselves. Personnel. So it's really important now to look at your people and make sure you have the best people in the right positions. It's also a great time to look for talent out there. A lot of people have been laid off. We just found a great mason who was laid off who wanted to come work for us. Unemployment's high. There's great people out there in the market. So we're starting to bring in additional people who have a ton of experience, a lot of them in chimneys, that can really help us. So highly recommend hitting up Indeed, hitting up whatever recruiting software you have or that you use to look for talent. You may not need them today, but start the conversation. And then training. You got to get your guys trained on how to keep the customers safe. It needs to mirror the marketing program. And we've talked about this in previous sessions. You can't say you're wearing gloves and masks and then show up without them. You need to mirror your marketing program. On the sales side, we're really highlighting the financing. So I was introduced to EnterBank, which is it's pretty popular in our industry, to provide 12 months same as cash or a low percentage 5-year loan to our customers. And they're really taking advantage of that. On our website, you hit a button and you can very quickly find out whether you are approved for this financing. Get it for your customers. It's a great add-on. It doesn't cost you that much, and it's really helped us overcome some of those fears, of the financial fears that some of our customers have. On the expense side, we talked about the P&L. At least 4 times a year, 6 times a year, I'll go through my P&L and try to reduce all my costs. So everything, I'm negotiating with all my suppliers. I'm negotiating with the insurance companies all the time, trying to get my costs as low as possible. Every single line item on your P&L, you need to look at that on a regular basis and try to see how you can decrease those costs. I've set up a tool room. So rather than my guys going to the Home Depot or the local store and paying $10 for a pair of snips, I'm buying them for $5 online, and I'm storing them. I'm getting 4 or 5 at a time. So rather than wasting their time to go to Home Depot and pay more money, set up a tool room with some of the more common items that you have, and lock it up so nobody grabs whatever they want. But set it up. You're going to save a lot of money. The first year we had that implemented, we saved about $10,000 on things like rivets and snips and everything else. It's incredible how much money you save when you have control of that. I mentioned the metal shop. Things I had never made before, I'm starting to make. Outside mount caps, for example. Things like that are highly profitable. I have the ability to make it. Why not make it? All right. So positioning your company for future growth, you got to know your numbers. We talked about the P&L a few times. You got to know your numbers. There's no excuse. P&L is pretty simple to go through and understand. It needs to be managed the same way every day as you're doing your QuickBooks accounts or whatever. But you need to know where your money's going, and you need to help decrease those spends. Your bottom line is just as important as your top line. I would argue that it's even more important than your top line. So I would rather make 30% on $1 million than 10% on $2 million. So your profitability is everything. In this industry, I hear a lot of people saying, I want to add more trucks, more revenue, more revenue. Very infrequently do I hear people say, I want to improve my bottom line. But managing your costs through efficiency and negotiating prices is the best way to do that. And that's going to add tens of thousands of dollars to your pocket just by spending the time to do that on a regular basis. This is also a great time to start to add other offerings. In our market, everything that's gone in the last 10 years have been prefabs. They're at the end of their lives. We're doing a lot of training on how to replace prefabs now. Gas log installs, that's another area we had never had the background and training on. We're starting to get into that. These are just 2 examples for things in my area that are gaining more and more traction. You can plug in whatever's important in your area, but look at those new offerings. Look at new things that are are profitable. You need to understand for everything you do in your business, whether it's a liner, whether it's brick pointing, tuck pointing, crowns, how much money you make on each of those. And where you're making the most money, that's where you want to market to. Where you're losing money, you want to get rid of it or retrain. But if it's not making you money, don't spend your time on it. You need to know what's making you money and what's not. We're also taking this opportunity with our with the slowdown to really look at our safety programs, our sales programs, and add additional technical training. So get your guys trained in all of these areas so that when things pick up again, you're ready to rock and roll. Take the time now. It's not a big investment. It's a great way to get your guys ready. On the financial side, if this epidemic taught you something, it should have taught you that you need to have some money in savings. I personally like 3 months. Other people like 1 month, other people like more. But you got to start putting money aside every month. You just do it at the beginning of the month and just do it so you have those savings. We also talked about a line of credit. You may not need it now, but get it anyway, because you will need it in the future. It was a great recommendation from a previous panel. It is a great way to have some resources right at your fingertips. As they said before, when you need it, it's going to be hard to get. When you don't need it, it's easy to get. So get it now when you don't need it. This networking is the last thing I have on my slide, but honestly, it's one of the most influential things I've had in my business. I'm part of a networking group with other leaders, other chimney owners across the country. And I have learned more from this group than I have anywhere else in my background in pharmaceuticals. Brilliant people, great ideas, sharing ideas, helping each other out. If you're not part of a networking group, I highly recommend you become part of one. It's not a great investment, but the dividends are huge. So excellent. I will stop there and turn it back over to John.
Thank you, Avery. If you could stop sharing your screen, and Steve, if you could jump up there on the screen. Steve Scally, as many of you know, he's been in this business for about 42 years. Steve's a master sweep. He started this company in 1999. So Steve, if you would kind of share with us some of the things that you've done to pivot your business during the pandemic and some of the things that you're doing to keep your business strong now, and what changes you plan on making, if any, in the future as a result of this recent pandemic.
Well, thank you, John, and thank you to the CSIA and NCSG for having me on this for this panel. It's been a long fight for me for all of this, for being able to do all of this. And back in 2007, 2008, and 2009, we had a crash market type of time, and I took a very big hit during that time, and I was lucky to come out of it. During that time, I learned a lot what to do and what not to do as far as businesses go, and not to go into debt and things of that nature. So I'm going to go agree with Avery about networking with somebody. I was fortunate enough to be 6 years in with the mixed group, which is one of the reasons I'm where I'm at today. Because if it wasn't for that mixed group and the people that were in it, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. So it's a good idea to network with people in your industry that can help you. One of the things that happened with me during this course with the COVID, when it happened, it started in the last week of March. I asked myself, what do we need in order to, work in this environment? What are we going to need to do? I shut my business down for 2 weeks, and I got online. I went to all the webinars. I learned about all the different things and really tried to find out what was going on. So I took a step back to really try to take in what was going on and to learn really what was going on before I took the action that was needed. It was very, very important to learn what about the coronavirus is, learn how it spreads. It was a very important thing for me to be able to do. And I was lucky enough to be able to go ahead and go forward and to do that because, like Avery said, I put some money away. I had money aside. I put money away every month. Again, I learned that because of the mixed group stuff. So I had money put away. I was able to do that. I was very fortunate to be able to do that. Some of the things that I did along this process was I called my bank, and like he said, line of credit. I got my line of credit extended. Did I need it? No, I didn't. But I got it extended in case things didn't work the way they were supposed to. It was a really big process. Get in call with your accountant. If you don't know your numbers well, learn your numbers. Get in call with your accountant. Get a QuickBooks advisor. You really have to understand your P&L and how it works. And Avery hit on a lot of good processes that I already do. So it definitely, keep up on that particular type of stuff, because you got to know these numbers. And thank God I have a great accountant, and he helped me through it along with my mixed group. I did a lot of marketing research. I sat down with Spark Marketer, and I learned a little bit about the marketing end of it and what to do and what not to do and how to do it. And I'm in process of redoing the Facebook stuff. I'm in process of doing the website stuff and getting all the information out. And again, I'll re-hit on what Avery said. You got to have your marketing set up properly, so you do what you say you're going to do. Very, very important. Far as about the loan program and how it worked, again, I sat in a lot of webinars to start with. John Meredith had 2 to start off that he did with a lot of financial people and accountants, and I learned a lot about that. And that helped in a great way. It was really very, very. I learned a lot. It's just basically what it comes down to. I brought in, and then after I did all of that, what I did is I learned also the webinar John did with the PPE stuff. And having the doctors or whoever it was that was on there, the scientists and Ellen Rush, I went out and I got all PPE for the entire cruise. I put the washing stations on the trucks, the disinfectants on the trucks, all the different things that were needed, and then some for what I needed to do. And then started writing up all the SOPs for that to also happen for the trucks and for the office, so it all integrated. And this is stuff that we did the first 2 weeks that this was going on. So that way there, because we're just now starting to come out of it. We just did our 2nd week back to work full time, as far as being 6 weeks in hibernation. And it's really worked well with educating and also talking with the clients and letting them know what's going on. And some of the things that we did is, we wanted to know, from them what their fears were and what was going on. So that way there we could address them and how we address them. To the biggest part of the whole thing about going out to their homes and having your PPE is listening to your client and understand where they're coming from. It's a very important aspect to being able to go into people's houses, because they want to know they're being heard and that their fears are being, taken care of. We do all of that. And one of the other things that we have in our bank is we have what they call forward schedule. In my area up here in New Hampshire, one of the things that we always have done is forward schedule. I usually do all my sweeps in May, and all the scheduling is done in April. Well, I haven't been able to do that, so all those sweeps are going to be now June and July, because that's when we're going to be allowed to go back into the houses, and we're going to have everything set up. But we communicated with our clients that this is what we're going to do. My masonry work, I had 2 months of masonry work set up ahead of time. And again, we discussed the fears of the clients. We moved the ones out that couldn't, and we put in the ones that we could just be outside and do. And again, it's about communication with your clients and being transparent as possible about it, because we're all in this and we're all having the fears at the same time. So the other thing that I started doing, which I never did before in my life, my president asked me to do a video. So I did. And I started doing videos, and I found really good feedback from those videos, because it gave a lot of information about who I am, about how I operate, and they really could get a sense of what was going on just by watching the videos. So that did a lot of plus sides for me. So I recommend doing videos for your websites and for all this information that's going on, so your clients can do a one-click, boom, and they got it. The other thing is I went online and I got all my guys on the classes. I took advantage of the classes that were being offered through CVC coaching. That's what I chose to do this time around. I found it a great deal, and it was a great help. Jerry Eisenhower walked me through it. I've known Jerry for 35 years. So I felt very comfortable going with him and saying, hey, this is what I need to do. And this is how I want to do it. And he just showed me the way. So get the online classes, get the information, get your guys doing it ahead of time. I started this 2 weeks before my guy even showed up to start working for me. I sent him the classes and he started taking them, and he was wowed by the information that he got. So when he came to work for the first day, he already knew some of the lingo and the language, so he could start learning quicker. So it was a really good process to help all of this get going. And again, I'm going to hit some of these things as well, some of the things that we also do. Every morning we sit down and have a little meeting about what's going on today, what happened yesterday, you know, what do we need to change, you know, is what we're doing, is our processes working, are our SOPs working, what do we need to change, how do we need to change it? Because as we all know, this is a very fluid situation because it's changing constantly. The PPP laws are changing. What we got to do for PPE in the houses are changing. Everything is changing. So our thing about communication is huge. And we got to be able to constantly be on the communication side of this to be able to get this thing going. Again, that's my opinion of it. And I think it works well because people don't like being left in the dark. The more you communicate with them, the more positive feed you're going to have. And again, we changed our, you know, we started redoing our SOPs. The office SOPs had to change. Our phone messages had to change on how we were talking with the clients, what we were asking. And this all started week 1 in April 1st. And we really had to start adopting all of this. And we're still writing them because they're still changing. You know, the banking SOPs and how we go to the bank and how we do deposits, how we deal with the bank, because my banking hours changed. So we needed to know how to do that. We need to be able to also have funds available to us as well. So we needed that type of thing. So you have to get in contact with your bank, you know, and again, I said that in the beginning to be able to do all of that. So it's really important to communicate. And again, this is just a forward schedule picture so you can kind of get an idea. And this is, I think, my May schedule. And it's a very tight schedule. Most of those ones that are 1 pictures are all day jobs. Most of the ones that are 3 pictures are usually, you know, they're basically inspections and things of that nature. Our inspection process has changed dramatically as well because of the because of all of the COVID stuff. We had to change the timing on how we do things again. So that changed our office stuff. It changed our office SOPs. It changed our truck SOPs, how we get ready in the morning and how we end the day. A lot of things changed because of all of this. So again, you really have to kind of plan for this. And I was fortunate enough to be able to have that money in the bank and be able to set up. And what Avery said is, and when I keep on hitting on this, is you got to plan for the 2 to 3 months being down, if at all possible, and have that money put aside. I was fortunate enough to do it because I learned way back when in the recession, that put me almost 100,000 in debt that I'm out of. So, I mean, I climbed way out of it to come where I'm at today. And you can do it. So, you know, if you don't know your numbers, go learn them. Go get a QuickBooks professional and get this done, because this is the most important part of your business. You need to know your numbers. SOPs, forward schedule, we're still fine tuning them. We pushed out the spring, which I've already hit on. Our scheduling, our sweeping schedule. Right now, I have scheduled out for 3 months worth of work, and that's without the phone ringing because of all the planning we did on the pre-plan ahead of time back the last week of March and the first week of April. And I'll keep on hitting with what Avery said, because, you know, planning all of this out in advance is very important. Knowing your numbers is very important, and it's huge for all of it. And that's what I got.
Hey, thank you, Steve. That's very helpful. I appreciate you, and I've known you for many years, and you certainly have had some ups and downs, and you've come back stronger each time. So that's amazing. Appreciate
Thank you
sharing your thoughts and wisdom with us. So if you'd stop sharing your screen, and Dylan, you could jump on here. So Tristan and Dylan Raycroft are co-presidents of Rooftop Chimney. This was founded by Andy, who's a good friend of mine, in 1978. They have 3 locations. They're located in Alexandria, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, and Chesapeake, Virginia. They recently purchased Jim Brewer's business, Magic Sweep. And these are some of the 2 of the sharpest young men I've met. And I'm sure we'll learn something valuable from those guys. They know their numbers. They know their business. They're taking a very strong business approach to this thing, and they've really kind of taken their business to the next level. And you know, I know Andy's always said, you know, he wants his ceiling to be their floor, and they certainly are expanding the vision. So Dylan, if you want to share with us kind of some of the things that you've been doing to pivot your business during this recent pandemic, and some of the things that tactical things that you're doing to keep it strong, and what changes you're going to make, if any, in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks, John. So I'm just going to say at the beginning, I'm going to say some things that are contrary to some of the things that Steve and Avery said. I don't think that any I actually really enjoyed both their presentations. I don't disagree with any of the things they said, but there are multiple different strategies that you can take depending on the situation that you are in for your company right now. So when we came into this, we were in a more challenged cash position, I think, than Steve, for instance, was, partly because we had just done a big new acquisition, which we were very excited about. But obviously that had put some strain on our cash flows, and I think we had a lot more overhead to cover. So we had to figure out, okay, how do we take these new stressors and make sure that we're going to stay in business, stay profitable, and be ready to really come back strong when it's over. So I have a little bit of a different strategy to share, but I think that everything that I've heard so far is stuff that can be used in any strategy. So the first thing is that the overall kind of strategy that we've taken, I like doing a little bit of car racing. I haven't been able to do much lately, but for those of you who are familiar with it or who drive motorcycles, I know a lot of the guys out there do, and women out there do, is that you all know the saying in racing that it's not about how fast you go into the turn, it's about how fast you can come out of the turn. So when we first came into this crisis, we started making changes very early. We started doing things very quickly, and we immediately pulled back a lot of stuff. So one of the things that we did do was we did actually end up laying off a lot of people, but we did it as part of a conversation. So for instance, a lot of our guys actually, we're struggling to find enough people to come back because we are picking up quite a bit. And a lot of our guys are still stuck home doing, childcare, things like that. So getting people back into the work is actually more of a challenge than we thought. The other thing too is that we asked for volunteers essentially for, say, who wants to essentially be laid off until we can get people back, and we tried to find the people who really needed to keep working. We had a couple people who were on like green cards or student visas who weren't eligible for unemployment benefits, and they really needed to keep working, so we kept them. We had some other guys who were more than happy to take a break, and so we worked it all out with them. But keep in mind, there is, on top of the PPP thing, they did increase a few weeks ago unemployment benefits, the maximum allowable by to $600 a week, which where we are in Virginia, that was almost triple what the previous amount was. So a lot of our guys, especially towards the middle and lower end, are really not doing that badly as far as that goes. And we're staying in constant contact with them. So we try to talk to them every single week, both to see how they're doing and to make sure that they know what we're doing and what the timeline looks like for coming back. So the first step in all of this is holding on to your cash, right? So I agree with Avery that you don't necessarily just want to cut all of your marketing, for instance. Don't cut everything, but you do want to look at every place you can possibly reduce cash costs. And you should be doing this all the time, but this is a time when you should probably put things on the table that you normally might not. So this is a time to be ready to kill sacred cows. It doesn't mean kill everything. It doesn't mean gut your business to where it's going to be crippled and you won't be able to come back. But it does mean that everything should be up for discussion. Everything should be part of a smart discussion. So we thought it was better to reduce quickly and then bring back when we knew it was safe. One of the things to note also with us is that our primary place is in Alexandria, so we do the DC area. We knew that was going to be a hot spot early on. We knew it was going to get hit hard. And in fact, we can clearly see the difference between our Alexandria location and our Richmond and Norfolk locations. Alexandria has been hit much harder by this. The culture around it is much different. People are much more serious about infection. So that's something you have to keep in mind depending on where you are and where your business is. So we moved everybody we could onto things that were either going to be revenue generating, or if we could, we're calling it put people on furlough, but basically, cut personnel to make sure that we weren't spending cash on things that aren't going to be turning around revenue right now. That doesn't mean there aren't things you should be doing to invest. There are, and I'll get to that in a minute. The other thing is be strategic with your PPP money. If you're lucky enough to have gotten a PPP loan, we're very grateful for it. It is forgivable if you spend it on payroll, rent, health insurance, and what's something else, mortgage deductions. That doesn't mean you want to spend it all. Be very strategic. Do the over under. You need to sit down, know your numbers, Do the math on how many people am I going to bring back? You have to know your multiplier, because the multiplier of how many people you bring back versus how many people you had for the same period last year, or last quarter, depending on which one's more. I think all of us in this industry, we probably had fewer people on payroll last spring than we did during the quarter of November through January. But know what percentage you're gonna get depending on who you bring back, and know what it's worth. It may be worth holding more cash, and that's a decision you need to make. This is basically a free loan for 2 years, but also don't spend too much of it if you can't pay it back. Just because it's free, you do only have 2 years to pay this stuff back. It's a 1% rate, which is obviously you're never going to get anything that good again. But just be strategic about how you use it. And then the last thing, Avery already said this, renegotiate everything. Talk to everybody who you give money to. So not just the people who supply your parts and your tools, but we went to our landlords, we went to everybody who we pay money to and renegotiated some stuff. In the very beginning, we went to a lot of our staff, and we basically we asked a lot of our staff, especially the higher paid ones, to take a temporary pay cut. We've since restored that. So we fixed that. But in the beginning, we acted quickly to make sure that wasn't going to hit us too hard. Obviously, those are the more extreme places. If you don't have to do that, don't do that. But we did it as part of a team effort. Everybody understood what was at stake. And a lot of people were willing to make that sacrifice because they knew that in the long term, that was what was best for the organization and therefore best for them. So that's an example of, that was a sacred cow that I was terrified to kill, but we did it. It was a good job. It worked out. And quite honestly, I think the culture is stronger for it. Sometimes when people sacrifice together, it bonds them harder. Don't do it for that reason. So once you've done that, once you've cut all your expenses as much as you can, and you're keeping as much cash from going out the door as possible, what do? I'll move through this pretty quickly because I think both Steve and Avery talked about this, but you need to start selling what is the new thing that's in demand, and that is safety. So you need to be selling the way that you're protecting your clients and the way that you're protecting your employees. It's super important to be protecting your employees and show your clients how you do it. Protecting your employees is protecting your clients. They are the vectors that are going to infect your clients if anyone is. So that's the first best thing to show. It also just creates a better brand image when you show people that you care about your employees. If anybody's read about some of the blowback that Amazon and some other companies are getting right now, that's not the branding that you want to be creating right now for yourselves. So we did some other things along with all the standard stuff. I'm going to just jump to kind of the last bullet point here is we cut our crews down as small as we could. We did that partly to save money, but we did it largely because the spreading of the virus is exponential depending on how many contacts you have. So we wanted to show our clients that we had as few people in any given place as possible. We front loaded a lot of our exterior work. So any way that we could do something without coming in contact with a client, we did. So from there, we started really focusing on sales. We knew that we had to fill up our sales pipeline because one of the things to remember is that it looks like it's coming back right now, but nobody knows that, right? There is a large probability that we could have a second wave of infections somewhere between now and this fall. Some people are saying that as we start opening up, we'll see a second wave. Some people are start saying that in the fall, we'll see a second wave due to weather. Nobody really knows. But we do know that all of these things are a possibility and a real probability. So you have to be prepared for those things. So we knew finding stuff that we could continue to do while maintaining social distancing was important. We knew being proactive about getting sales in the door and getting custom clients committed to doing work with us early was important. So one of the things we did was we used some of our PPP money to hire some new salespeople. So we found people who had real deep sales experience. And this is something in this industry that we talk about sales a lot. We tend to hire technicians. We tend to train them to be salespeople. Maybe we have one or two inside salespeople who follow up. We hired salespeople specifically to start building out some new outreach around business to business stuff. So one of our goals is we want to have a lot more work with larger organizations. So with property managers, with business investors, with apartment complexes, things like that. So developing those relationships now. And we don't think that we're going to get a huge amount of turnaround on that right now, but we are going to start building that more consistent, reliable work that's going to pay off huge next spring, could pay off this fall, depending on how things go this fall. If this fall ends up being really weak, if there is a second wave, that could end up being crucial to keeping us in the game. From there, we started calling our customers. So obviously, Steve talked about forward schedules. That's the first thing on the list. Always call your forward schedules and your open estimates. So people who are waiting to hear from you about stuff. Be tenacious. Call them every day. Call them every other day. Just make a plan, whatever it is. But you have to understand the client has a X% probability of picking up 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% chance of picking up your phone call the first time. Every time you call them, every time they see your number and they ignore you, the next time you call, they have a slightly higher chance of picking up. So do not be afraid to continue calling people until you get them. And when you do get them, present your service, present your call as a service, as a value to them, as a chance to educate them about what you're doing for safety for your clients. Educate them about what your new services are. So the other thing is, on top of going after more business to business stuff, is that we're pushing really hard exterior stuff like masonry, power washing, beautification. A lot of people are at home right now, and they're realizing that if I'm going to spend all this time in my house, A, I can get a lot of stuff done. B, I'd really like it to look nice. So a lot of businesses are down. Home office renovations, by the way, are super up right now, right? So take advantage of this kind of stuff. Power washing is a great one. Realtors right now are hurting really badly. Helping them drive up that curb appeal, doing things like exterior cleanings can really help. So this is non-chimney stuff that we're figuring out ways to do and create a new client base. As you do all this stuff with sales, always, always, always track what you were doing. Doesn't matter how you do it, just do it in a way that's clean and you can understand, and you can track your success. And as you find things that are successful for you, note them, change what you're doing to do more of that, and then keep making small adaptations. You want to do 90% of it the same all the time. Track at the end of the week, how did I do this week? If something made a difference, keep doing that thing and add a new thing. That is how you get better at stuff like sales. There's no magic formula. You just track it and you keep making small incremental improvements. And you be ready to the fact that the reality is in sales that most of the time you're just not going to get sales. So we're getting like a 10 to 18% conversion rate. And we're learning things like Mondays seem to be better. I honestly don't know why Mondays are better, but we're going to keep trying it and see what happens. We try different times a day and we track what times a day for calling work. You know, we have a list of 30,000 clients. We are working through that list. When we have less work, guys come in from the field and they call out to those clients. So that's something that we're doing, like the way that Avery's using his manufacturing to keep people busy. We're using that to keep people busy if it gets a little low. My recommended reading on this is Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount. It's a fantastic book on how to do outbound prospecting with your own clients and how to do calls really efficiently. My big advice on that is just get through volume quickly. Don't spend a lot of time on it. Just call, move on, get the next one. If you haven't done this yet, if you haven't focused your company around sales, now's the time to train on sales. No matter how much work you put into it, it doesn't matter if you can't close the deal and bring some money home. If you don't pay people sales commissions, now's the time to start. We're in the middle of a huge change. For anybody who's ever read about stuff like the shock doctrine concept, this is the time where you can make big changes and stuff, where your guys will often push back. This is the time when you get the least amount of pushback because everything is up in the air. I guarantee you, if you're not successful at sales and you're not giving sales commissions, that is a huge reason why. People who are not incentivized to do something don't do that thing. People who are incentivized to do it will usually at least try. And if they don't, they might not be the right person for that role. Invest in training, take time in training. So we train all of our guys who are going out and doing sweeps and inspections and sales. We do written training, we do role play. Like I said, I tend to do 20 to 50 hours of training per person. I train every day with the people on the phones to make sure that they're closing. It's a lot cheaper to spend that time training with people, and you have to train continuously with sales. There's no like taking a class and you're done and they're perfect. No, you have to do it every week, every day, always training, always improving, always looking at what people are doing. If you don't have a system that records how phone calls are done, get it going. How am I doing on time, John? Am I all right, or I need to wrap up? You're muted, but all right. Well, I'll just do the last one.
You got time. 2-minute warning.
Cool. I'm on my last one, so that's perfect. So last thing, if you're good at sales, then figure out a system for getting that skill into your people. If you don't know what it is you're doing, but you're good at it, then stop and think about how you do things and start writing it down, and that will help you to systematize it. I guarantee you have a system. It's just in your head. It's become second nature to you. But if you're consistently good, there's a system there. You just don't know what it is yet. If you're not good at it, or you don't know how to systematize it, hire somebody. It will be some of the best money you've ever spent. I won't tell you who all the guys in this industry are, but there are plenty of guys who are really good. I've worked with a lot of them. I have respect for all of them. I have learned a ton from all of them. And then the last thing is you got to stay adaptable. So anything you hear now, there's a ton of good ideas in these seminars. Keep listening to them. Steve said this, everything is fluid. Everything is changing every single week. If you're not having weekly meetings with all of your top leadership people, you have to be. If you're not trying to over communicate, and if you're not soliciting feedback from everybody in your organization for what they're hearing, what is the vision they're seeing on the ground right now that you're not getting, you need to be doing that. If you have not really invested in your process to make your process efficient, Avery talked about this already, stop and look at what you're doing. Ask yourself, where can I make improvements in my process? Can we do better on ordering? Can we do better on inventory? Where is there money that's being wasted? If you have to slow down right now, this can be a great opportunity to slow down, take a step back, like Steve said, and really invest in your business overall. I think, quite honestly, I think there's two kinds of companies that are going to come out of this. There's going to be people who don't adapt, like John said, who don't act quickly, and there's going to be the people who adapt and iterate consistently throughout this. And I think most of the people who come through this are going to come out a lot stronger at the end of it. And then the last thing is, what new services can you do? What skills do you have that are adjacent to things that you can offer to people that are actually in demand? Most things are down right now, but there are things that are up right now. So ask yourself, are there any of those that I can do, or that I can do with 5, 10, 20 hours of training or practice or learning? We all have similar skill sets, but each of our companies has different strengths in different areas. So some of us, it's masonry. Some of us, it's different things on the roof. Some of us know electrician stuff or plumbing better. Ask yourself, sit down with your team and say, what skills do we have right here that we can put to use? So I'm going to leave it at that. I appreciate the time, John, and thanks for including me. And I'm going to let the next person go.
Good stuff, my friend. Appreciate you. Really good stuff. We'll wish you the best. You guys are doing an amazing job out there. If you want to, yeah, there you go. Share, leave, and then, so Mark, you want to share your screen. So Mark Stoner of Ashbuster's Chimney. Mark is located in Nashville, Tennessee. Mark started in business in 1985, I believe. Today, he's got about 60 employees, and one cool thing that happened last year that he was kind of proud of, that he had a $1 million month, and more importantly, he had a 25% net profit. And he attributed that a lot to Ray, his chief financial officer. And just a kind of a shameless sales pitch, next week, Ray will be joining us for our next seminar on the 21st. And Chuck will talk a little bit more about that too, but that's going to be how to grow your business and actually make a profit. So Mark also wrote a book called Blue Collar Gold, How to Build a Service Business from the Dirt Up. If you've not read that book, I would highly recommend that you do. A lot of what he says in that book is still relevant for today. And then so it's interesting, when I was talking to Mark, just interviewing me a little bit before our presentation, you know, he just said, he just had my second worst day. Of course, my next question was, well, what was your first worst day? And so I said, Mark, you need to share that story. So Mark, also, any questions you guys have, answer or put them into the question box there, and we'll get to those at the end. But Mark, you know, kind of share with us what your second worst day was, but also, you know, just give us a brief history of the first worst day too. So.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, gotcha.
Okay. So some of you know, my first worst day was back in 2008, where, you know, a lot of people referenced it on this call, where, you know, everything crashed. I basically lost my business at the time, and I had to fire everyone. I had 17 employees at the time, And I had to go back to zero. I had to go back to just me working by myself with my 14-year-old son. And I've told this story quite a bit over the years. That was the worst day in my business, when I had to literally shut it down and tell everybody that basically I failed as a business owner to navigate the waters. And as Avery started off, knowing your numbers, I didn't know those. Everything Avery said to begin with, I didn't have any of that. Everything even Steve Scally and Dylan was talking about, I didn't have any of that stuff. So if you're sitting on this call and you don't have it, don't feel bad. Most people on this call probably don't have it. Don't feel bad, but know that you need to do it. So I didn't do it. I crashed the business and I had to start over. And eventually that was actually one of the best things that happened. But yesterday was probably my second worst day in business. And it happened because we had a COVID, we had one of our employees test positive. And we had put the things in place from some of these past seminars and did what Alan Rush and Joe and John did with the clean process. And one of our guys still got it when we really didn't slow down too much on work, but we got it. So then it set off a panic attack in my business. There are some people that don't care about it at all, think it's a complete hoax, and there's other people that are scared for their life. And that dynamic inside your business is a huge wedge that is one of the most difficult things I've ever had to handle as a leader. I've got people that literally think they're about to get killed coming into work, and others that don't care at all. So for me, I really had an explosion inside my business, like literally two factions of people that just didn't have a direction, and they all wanted to go their own direction. And you can't blame any of them for being right or wrong, because nobody knows. So all you out there in business, everybody is dealing with the same problem. But I just kind of want to talk a little bit about how I handled it this morning, because you may agree with what I'm going to say and you may disagree, but you're going to have to pick a path as a leader in your business, what you're going to do. So I'm going to read to you literally what I said to my company, and I hope this is helpful for some people. And literally, I also had one of my employees call OSHA on me, and OSHA saying that we were not being safe enough. And I talked to OSHA, and I said, well, tell me what I'm supposed to do to make sure I've done it. One, you have to have a meeting about the COVID-19 virus. I did that. Two, you have to provide hand sanitizers, cleaning supplies, and X amount of things. We did that. Three, you have to post the law regarding the CARES Act and all that. We did it. You have to talk about social distancing and what that means. We did it and abided by it. But sometimes people would get together, and sometimes they would talk in groups, and they were starting to do it more and more. And so I could say social distance, but whether they did it or not, I can't literally go pull them apart, because you're within 6 feet, and I can't watch them all the time. So that's kind of up to them. OSHA basically told me, you're fine. You're just going to write a letter. We're not coming out. You're fine, no problem. And I addressed that with whoever called. And I'm not gonna do a circular firing squad and get after my people. Somebody was scared, somebody was worried. That's fine. I'm not even gonna try to find or ask anybody who it is, because it doesn't matter to me. I don't want to take this one small moment in time and make huge decisions for me and my people. But I will read to you what I said this morning. Good morning, everyone. Good news so far. Oh, and I also had everyone go get a test. So my whole company went to get a test. Now, we couldn't test them all in one day, so it's taken a couple of days. But good morning, everyone. Good news. So far, no one has tested positive, with about 10 tests returned. Many more people will be tested today, and others have results in 2 to 4 days. We will not have our morning meeting until Monday. The office and kitchen are off limits for technicians. Please maintain distancing. Please thoroughly clean all equipment being returned. If you're working with someone, drive separately, which we were doing that already, but just to remind them. We will reimburse you for the use of your personal vehicle if needed. It's 56 cents a mile, so please turn in your mileage to Rebecca. To be clear, we are not required to shut down because someone tested positive. In my best judgment, the best actions are to take are based on cleanliness. Shutting down only prolongs this virus at this point. The reason for quarantine was to let the healthcare system catch up, not prevent the virus. The healthcare system is actually underwhelmed in most places, and we just need to get back to work and deal with it on a case-by-case basis. I also understand that everyone has a different home situation, different feelings on the matter, and those are valid as well. As a leader of this company, I've picked a path for us. You may agree or disagree, but I have to pick a path. If you cannot be on board with the path, there are no hard feelings and no blame. Please contact me or Kent, and we will give you our blessing and a good reference so you can find employment elsewhere. Now, that sounds tough, but you're going to have to pick a path because you've got people that want to stay home and get a check, and you've got other people that are ready to work. And whatever your decision is your decision, and you have to be clear with it. I was trying to wait on more and more information before I really put that out there. And finally, yesterday, my leadership came to a point where I had to make a decision. So, John, that's that story about yesterday, and it was really tough for me. It was a really bad day for me. You can probably still see it in my eyes if you're looking at a video. I'm really stressed, but that's just what leadership is. You're going to be tested, and you're going to have to figure out a path through it if you're going to survive. So my points, I hope that helps some of you if you're in a leadership position on what to do. But hey, choose the opposite if you want and have everybody stay home if that's your decision. But on this, I want to talk about efficiencies too, because I think ultimately Avery hit on it earlier. He's a very efficient operator. I've been to his place, and it's amazing how efficient he is. And I think everybody can take away that. And I wanted to hit on that too. Some of it, the question I had is, did you have the business you wanted before the shutdown? If you had the business you wanted before the shutdown, then just keep going. You're fine. But if you did not, which most people don't, if they're honest with themselves, they don't have the business they wanted. Now's the time to fix a few things. And I mean, rarely has a pandemic come around that you have time to fix things. And if you're ever going to do it, now's the time, because later you're going to say you're too busy and don't have time to do it, but you might have not really wanted to do it. So here's a few things. Do you put enough value on your own time? Are you if you're the owner of the company, you're at least a $200 to $1,000 an hour person. If you're doing small things like running to Home Depot, running to Staples, doing things that you could pay someone $15, $20 an hour or whatever to do, you should not be doing it. So first of all, you have to value your time extremely high. And when you start doing that and start handing off things to other people or using other technology to reduce your actual time, it pays huge dividends. Do you have an apprentice? If you have an apprentice or you have people that work with you, if you're a small operation, the first thing I did was I put the apprentice driving the truck. The apprentice drives the truck, because if not, he's in the passenger seat sleeping half the time anyway. So you have the apprentice drive the truck while you run the business from the passenger seat. And you can expand this out. If you want to grow multiple trucks, you can then do that with your next technician. That guy that was in the driver's seat for you moves into another truck and someone else drives, and they can teach while they drive. So basically you run the business, make the phone calls, teach, follow up, networking, instead of you driving around, spending all the windshield time and the other guy sleeps. We use a lot of lifts instead of building scaffold. Some places that works, some places it doesn't, but I don't want my guys spending a lot of time building scaffolding if it's just, say, doing a liner or doing a heat shield or putting a cap on or even some basic tuck point. If you're building a chimney, of course, you got to build scaffolding, but how fast, and I have lifts delivered on site. My guys drive up, the lift is there, we drive it up, put the cap on, do the repair, the basic repair, whatever it is, the crown repair, leave, and then somebody else comes and gets the lift. We do this so much during the week, and it helps us move faster. It helps us move faster to the next job, and we charge the customer what it costs us. And I don't have my guys spending a lot of time building and hauling and wrecking or striking down scaffolding. We use on-site dumpsters. We don't use dump trailers a lot because dump trailers mean my guys have to then go to the dump and dump it, or they have to load it and unload it wherever our other dumpster is. So we use on-site dumpsters, throw everything in there, leave, somebody else and comes and gets it. Again, you may have totally different ways and reasons for doing it. I'm just telling you how we move quickly through things. Are you doing on-site proposals? It's another one we've talked about for years. clearly, if you're going back to the office and writing up a bunch of estimates, it's a waste of time and also most likely a waste of your energy, because if you propose later than on site, it's usually a less closing percentage. You want to do as much as you can on site and not build a big backload of estimates. I can't tell you how many guys I've worked with, and they go back to the office and one person writes the estimates and they got a big pile of estimates that they got to get through, and customers been waiting weeks or even months. You're killing it right there. You don't even need to advertise anymore if you're not even doing all your own proposals. And Dylan hit on it earlier where he mines his open estimates. We do that every year. You've got probably millions of dollars of estimates in your backlog that you need to go through and get those back out there and mine through those. And then, are you emailing large estimates? We try to get away from emailing any large estimates. We want to go back and make another proposal on site. So if you can't propose on site, you say, hey, great, I don't have all the information. When can I come back? And when can I propose this again on site? Because if you email a large estimate, all they do is open it, look down to the right-hand corner, $7,000. They make a business decision, they make a buying decision right then, and you are not selling anymore. They say yes or no, and if you're high, they say call somebody else. If you're right there in front of them, you're still selling. If they go, wow, that's a lot more than I thought, you can say, great, well, let me go through this estimate again so you understand it, and maybe we can make an adjustment for it, or maybe you just justify that's what they said they wanted, that's what they need for safety or water leaks, and then you're still selling. Emailing large estimates is a killer. All right, one other thing I didn't put on here, it was brought up, online training. It's a big deal. A lot of people have seen the value of it. Some people, there's different platforms out there. I'm part of the Surefire platform. One of the neat things that happened in this last month was almost 15,000 online modules were taken on Surefire and through CSIA, and 15,000 modules in 1 month, training modules done by some of the best guys out there. So if you aren't doing online training, I highly recommend it. It's one of the most efficient things that you can do, and cost efficient things as well. All right, I want to show you this. This is a Kanban inventory system. I think some of you know what this is, but maybe some don't. I'm showing pictures of our warehouse, and this is a way to keep up with products so you don't run out of stuff. Like, that's a killer, right? If you got a warehouse and you got employees and then you think you have 3 of something and you go to do it the day of the job and they're gone because somebody else used them on another job, or you don't know, you thought they were there or they never came in. So I want to show you this. On the left-hand side is just some products. A lot of you guys use similar products, and there's red cards sitting right there in little plastic things. You can get these at Staples or anywhere. On each card says the product that you want, and you see quantity, it's been marked out, says 18, reorder 9. It says the manufacturer, Saver Systems, which we all love, John Meredith, and the phone number. What that is that's a max min. So when you order 18, and when we get down to 9, you pull that card right there and put it over in the right-hand side. I show you that it says reorder forms and ordered, or reordered items and ordered items. In the reorder top thing that's empty, you drop that card in there when we're down to 9, drop it in, and the people who order, anybody can do it because the phone number on there, stock number's on there. You grab that card and you order it. And then when everything's ordered, you drop it into the ordered items and then wait till it gets delivered. And then when you receive it, you put the card back in the slot on the inventory, and you don't ever run out of anything. We're actually moving to a more advanced scanning system this week, but I've used this system for years and it just works. We never run out of stuff, or I should say never, very, very rarely. It's a very simple system called the Kanban or Kanban inventory system. Next, job staging. This is so important. Every job before we go out is staged on roller carts. I learned this from Charlie Quayle years ago. Actually Charlie learned it from a guy, what's his name, Bob Arbel. And basically we have roller carts. We built them out of pallets, and we also have them out of plastic ones that you can buy from Uline. It's got everything that technician's gonna need for the job, the work order packet of everything, the job and the job number. So everything is tracked, priced. We know exactly the material that was used, and we can, we stay efficient. You roll this cart to your truck, load your stuff up, You got everything you need, and there's no trips to the hardware store, the brickyards, all the stuff that kills your productivity. So here, the other thing is, many people don't realize this, but the hardware store will come to you in most cases. Almost all vendors will deliver to you at your home or work site or warehouse. And we want to have Home Depot and Lowe's and everybody come to us, the Brickyard come to us. Try to get everybody to come to you rather than you sending a crew out to Home Depot to get a couple of tubes of caulk, which are say $20. But when you consider your time value, you've lost $200 to $400 in Home Depot. Plus they're buying other stuff that they may not need. And then they decide they need a drill this day, and they decide to buy a DeWalt, but everybody else is buying Milwaukee's. And now you've got a different battery charger and batteries, and you get a whole mishmash of tools and chargers, and everybody's got something different on their truck. You have to have it all brought in-house to have that work really properly. I'm going to show you a system that we have. It's from Fastenal, company that we basically have an internal warehouse. And as you can see on the left, it's a Fastenal vending machine. And in there is PPE. You can see fill cartridges, tape, drill bits, nut drivers, safety glasses, all kinds of stuff, kind of consumables that we would use. They put their employee number in, put their van number in, and it vends out so we can watch how many of each thing the people have. On the next slide on the right, that's just to the other side of this employee number. They type that in, and they can type in the job number or their van number, like van stock. There's trash bags, mill pack, paint, flash sealing, all kinds of other consumables. So they're not going to Home Depot. On this next and I think this is not quite my last slide. Right there on the left-hand side, you can see Fastenal brings us all of our water for our crews. So they bring us pallets of water. Bring that in. Don't have them going to the gas stations or whatever. Even you going and getting pallets of water. Have that stuff brought in for your techs. On the edge of that Fastenal machine, if you can see it, is a whiteboard, and that just states if we need something. We write that down, and the Fastenal representative brings it to us, and then he loads the machine with that. All this stuff is connected to the internet, so Fastenal knows exactly what was vended out, so they know what to bring when they come in. So on the right, you see these tools in those little windows. Those are our tools. Those are not Fastenal tools. I only own so many nail guns, so many spray setups for, if you spray a smoke chamber, or certain kinds of equipment. I only own so many of them. So I put the gun in the door there. So the employee, types in who's got it. And then in 24 hours, if that gun or that tool isn't returned to that bin, I get an email that it's sitting on van number 22 or whatever. So I know where all my tools are, and we also know who returned it if it's broken or dirty or whatever. So very efficient systems for that. I want to go to this last one, which is a video, and I'm not sure if that you're going to hear the audio, and so I'm going to talk through it. But this is for our gas division, and so this is another Fastenal machine, and I think I hit play here and you'll see it. So here's the job number, the employee number.
This is Mark Stone's gas.
So it opens up a drawer. So all those cases are weighted. When they pick out 5, it says they got 5. And it also tells Fastenal to bring 5 back. So hopefully that's pretty clear. I'm not sure. So basically that was my presentation. And that's Fastenal does that. They actually set that up for free as long as we spend so much money per month. If we spend so much money per month, they do not charge us for those bins, even the ones that we just have our own stuff in them. And that's basically my presentation. I hope that was helpful.
Thank you, Mark. We have a couple quick questions and then we'll jump off here. Sorry we leaked over a little bit, but I thought the information was good and we wanted to. And I didn't see anybody just dropping off in droves here, but appreciate you hanging through this with a little bit of Zoom fatigue we've seen. And so anyway, one of the question was about your book, Mark. What was the title of your book? And the title of the book is Blue Collar Gold: How to Build a Service Business from the Dirt Up. Again, I highly recommend it. Another question was for Avery, and Avery, let's see. Avery, they wanted to know did you answer it? You might have answered online already about the
16 employees. Yep.
But you had one. What employment service are you using? You using Indeed or?
I use Indeed, and then also learn from Mark a great opportunity, which is essentially, don't hire, recruit. So go out there and look for the right employee. Go out and find people not only in your general area, but go out and put a company story together. And I'll let Mark explain it a lot better than I can. But I've learned from him and used it, and it's pretty great.
So thank you, Avery. So one of the questions was, Mark, they wanted to know how much you spend with Fastenal to get them to place the vending machine. You know what the minimum spend is for the Fastenal vending machine?
I think it's about $1,200 or $1,500 a month.
Okay.
And so in product that we buy, and you can also, I believe, rent the lockers for so much a month. Like if you just want the lockers, I think it's not much, maybe $100 a month for the lockers, or it doesn't seem like it's much. You don't have to spend the exact same every month to hit it, but it's like an annualized thing. What they do is they come in and they see where you buy everything and how much of everything you buy, and then they make a proposal. Either they'll put machines in or they'll just bring you the stuff.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So Tom wants to know, have you implemented any additional any of you guys, anybody, any additional changes to your operational functions once the trucks return at the end of the day? Are you doing electrostatic fogging of van interiors and things like that?
I can speak to that. We have cleaning stations set up when everybody comes back with any equipment, say pressure washers or any tools, and we have tables set up and a thing where the guys have to wash their tools that would be shared. I don't have a process of cleaning their own van every day, other than they have spray and those kits that you guys talked about that Joe and Alan put together with the bleach and everything. We have those on every truck.
Okay. So Tom Hunkel wanted to know marketing via Google. What tools are you guys using? Are you doing a lot of Google stuff, AdWords and whatnot? Are you doing this in-house? Are you jobbing that out, or what? Any thoughts on that?
I can speak to that briefly. What I do is big part of my marketing spend is on Google AdWords, and I do market that out to Spark marketers who I use. But I know we've talked about some others online here in previous weeks.
Yeah.
I've also found that Facebook is a tremendous resource for marketing. It's almost as if their best friend or their mother told them about you. So Facebook is becoming more and more important. It's a no-brainer. It's very expensive. It is a great tool to have an actual, not just the post on Facebook, but actually to have a real marketing plan on Facebook. It's inexpensive and it works great.
Oh, great. Mark, somebody wanted to see slide 7 again. Can you go back to slide 7, which shows the two vending machines?
Was it the video part?
No, this is slide number 7. It just shows the two machines on the left and right. One shows the caulk and this. I think that's it.
So from current slide.
You just want
I gotta hit share current.
another peek at it.
Can you see me or no? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we're still.
So you need to do the back. Hold on one second.
So,
This one. And then
It's slide 7. That's it. No, the one before that.
from
Just one right before that one.
before this one.
Yeah, that's it. That's the one they wanted to see.
So, yeah, up the side there is Fastenal set a thing of water, then the main vending machine for PPE, consumables, and all that vending stuff literally works just like, we got also like hydration stuff, like it's almost like Gatorade dry, powdered Gatorade you put in your drinks for the guys for the summertime, electrolytes and all that. And then the next one over is the bins that when you type that in, the bin unlocks temporarily. You get out the tool or the caulk tubes or whatever's in the bin that you need. You shut it down and then it records what you got out. And again, on the certain tools, we've got it set up so that we know where the tool is if somebody forgot to bring it back.
Well, thank you guys. I want to close out now. I appreciate everyone being on the call today. I hope it's been valuable. I know certainly I've learned some things, but just in closing, I just want to say my best thought at this time is to, if you want to change the future, you have to disturb the present. So oftentimes the best ideas, like automobiles, video conferencing, forward scheduling, they take years to catch on. So that's because some of the great ideas that we've heard today, they require significant change. So in order to pivot your business, you've got to take action now and really embrace the what's next. Sometimes our best ideas can't be seen until life's difficulties remove the distractions. And I love this quote by a writer named Amy Lito. She says, "Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it." So please join us next week. Our expert panel will teach you the key financial metrics that you need to know to grow your business, make a profit, and keep it strong in tough times. With that, Chuck.
Thank you, John. So I wanted to thank Dylan, Steve, Avery, and Mark, and a special thanks to you, John, Meredith, and Saver Systems for participating and hosting it once again. I think this is a great webinar that we had, and I hope everybody got some very good topics out of it. Thank you all for joining us again. Your participation and us being able to provide you with content that will hopefully provide ROI for you and your business going forward is very important to both of our associations. Our associations, which is the NCSG and CSIA, we believe in our members and our credential holders, and we are in complete alignment with helping the trade and providing timely topics. So next week, as John alluded to, at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is the 21st, next Thursday, we're going to be doing another panel on how to grow your business and actually make a profit. You're going to learn the key performance indicators you should know to keep your business strong. This is something that's really going to benefit everybody, so I urge you to tune in. You'll be emailed a survey shortly after this program ends. Please complete it and turn it back. We want your comments and feedback so it helps us plan for future content to help you, and that's why we're here. CSIA and NCSG are in this with you. As I said last week, you ain't heavy, you're our brother. Stay safe. Thank you. See you next week.